You want to get high, man?
Let's stimulate your mind.
Get up, Chucky!
What have we got here? A fucking comedian.
Rojan Kim.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the Rojan Kim cast. It's me, Rojan Kim, and joining me today is Trenton. Stuart.
Hey.
Fellow comedian, fellow open micer, fellow warrior of the fourth wall.
Yes, sir.
Back in the old days. Fellow middle-aged open micer. We're both middle-aged men who have a different perspective on things, I feel like.
Having fun.
Having a great time. Hey, actually, I think that gives me and you a great perspective, because the fact that I'm not like 20 and trying to figure out who I am while doing comedy, you know what I mean, is, to me, I think it's almost like a big weight off, actually, in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Because I just feel like when you're in the process of comedy is always already a process of self-discovery, and if you're on top of that having a period of actual self-discovery of yourself, it just, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think it would be really just like not easy to even know what your perspective is, you know?
I love it because it keeps me sharp from Alzheimer's. You know, my mind is always moving. So
Yeah.
I've always had this theory: if you don't use your mind, it's susceptible to Alzheimer's.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, you heard about
just figuring how to try to get rooms.
Yeah. Well, you heard that thing Dave Chappelle said, how comedians are the opposite of fighters, where like as we age, we actually become more effective. Like where it's like, you know what I mean? We're actually like, you know, it's just like, it's one of the.
To your point, you know, when you're younger, just to tag to your point, like you said, when you're younger, you're trying to find yourself, and you know, and when you get older, you're not trying to find yourself. You're just trying to learn how to express yourself. You got all this shit up here,
right? I mean, I think a big part of it is like, as you get older, you're not really actually that interested in fucking, you know what I mean? So that it doesn't really, you don't really care if the girls don't like what you say, or if people don't, you know what I mean? You don't really care. That's why I think honestly, like old people are the funniest, you know what I mean? Old people are the funniest human beings because they basically are just like, I don't really give a fuck if you like me or don't. I'm not trying to fuck any of you. Fuck all of you. All of you are annoying.
Maybe trying to get in one or two fucks.
Yeah. No. I mean, realistically, of course. But when you talk to young people, you know what I mean? You're not trying to enter that game with them. You know what I'm saying? And you could just be like, oh God. I mean, on some level, I envy, you know, you can envy youth, but on other levels, I really don't. I'm like, I'm glad I went through all the shit I did, and I know who I am, so I don't have to deal with that. You know what I mean? There's so much shit I feel like when you hit your 30s, you really have to like start saying no to things and being like, nah, I don't want to. Like, I think in your 20s, you say yes to everything, right? You should say yes to everything. Be like, yeah, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. I feel like once you hit your 30s and into your 40s, if you still don't know by that point what it is you like and don't like, then you're lost,
and then there's always a threshold where it might happen, you know? Sometimes it, you know, like even in your 30s, you might be still saying yes to stuff, or even in your 40s. But as you go on, those poundings, they just open up that revelation to where you go, no,
right?
Mean it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just say no and mean it 100%.
Well, I feel like, you know, I think it's part of youth to go and make mistakes. But if you don't learn from the mistakes, then it's just like we might as well be stuck as a child. You know what I mean? You're no longer an adult at that point. You're not learning. There's nothing you're gaining out of it. So this is all an interesting tirade out of us just being middle-aged. Like I'm turning 42 in a couple months. You know, so I just feel like, I don't know. It's a trip. It's a trip because I grew up. Are you from here? Where are you from?
No, I was raised in San Francisco, but I've lived in Los Angeles since '92.
Oh, no shit. Okay, so I was here. So I grew up here my whole life. So '92, I was going to say, I was here during the riots. I was here. Did you come before or after the riots? Did you come like in April? Did you come again?
I actually lived in Arcadia, and they wouldn't let the people come to Pasadena or Arcadia. I saw them on TV, and they were like storming Crenshaw and all this other stuff. As soon as they started up Colorado Boulevard, they said, no.
Well, that's what, you know, in LA, where the National Guard lined up is on La Cienega and Beverly, where the Beverly Center is. I mean, it was actually really hilarious. Yeah, so they were like, they basically would let everything from South Central through Koreatown through Hollywood burn, and then right there is where they held the line.
Can
Basically,
you
like,
believe that?
yeah,
That's so incredible of how, stuff happens. Like, go ahead and wreck the minority stuff, but when it comes to, like, the real good stuff for the white folks, oh, we draw a line right here. We
well, that's,
stop it right here.
I mean, that's how you know where the cops and the army, the National Guard, it's like, who do they protect in the end? You know what I mean? Where are they going to set up? And that's the thing. It's like, that's the whole thing about this area back then. I mean, you were probably a little older than I am back then.
I'm 57.
Okay, so yeah. So you were an adult. Like I was a kid still, so I was barely understanding, what I mean, what was going on. It wasn't until like a lot later I started understanding, okay, all the complex and learning a lot of the history of LA, like complex race relations and just sort of the cops, how dirty the cops are, and then really learning how all that stuff. And like well, it's interesting you said Arcadia, because my dad, his liquor store was in Monrovia, it was right by there. And so I remember him going out there, I think on the 29th, the first night of the riots, and just fucking going out there and spending the night at a store, protecting a store and shit, with his shotgun or whatever. Like, even though nothing really happened out there,
Right.
like the real action was in K-Town, but you really didn't know. I mean, the shit, you could see the fire coming and shit, like the shit was wild. So, so I just feel like so like having gone through that and seeing all that shit, in a way, I feel like everything now is like, I mean, yeah, sure, nothing's perfect. That we would say we fixed all our problems, but it's kind of better. I mean, it's still a little it's a lot better than it used to be. You know what I mean? Like I mean, it's the same in a lot of ways, but you can't just be like I can't objectively say it's worse than it was. The 90s was bad, man. I mean, it was not it was not a good time around here, Like,
And like, it's in perspectives too.
right.
Like, there's some really, really bad stuff. And then, if you get a chance to look at the good stuff, like, one, the platform is so much better now. You couldn't voice your displeasure without being on the front line getting your head cracked.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
And so,
well, not only that, back then, I mean, literally that Rodney King thing was the first time there was any video of the cops beating the shit out of a black guy. And the whole time, I mean, that's where gangster rap came out, like all this shit is coming out, basically talking about what's going on. And it finally took some video evidence, and that was a huge moment. And that was, before the internet, before everything, now it's just like, now they basically sit on video. Now it seems like they got a bunch of videos that they just kind of sit on and then release once in a while or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, the shit is still obviously going on, but we're also much more, it's like we're much more capable in finding that information, spreading the information, getting it out there. You know what I mean? It's like there are things that make it better in that way, I also think that I don't know. I think the worst thing I feel like nowadays is, and actually I'm interested to think what you think. Is I have a hypothesis about this, and I think it's because of the wars. I think it's like we've been at war for 20 years, but we kind of act like we're not at war. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is psychologically damaging to our culture. And especially with the young people, what it's done is, because look, if you were born around 9/11, so you're like fucking 18, 19 now, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're just becoming an adult. That means your entire life, the country's been at war. Your whole life, and we haven't really made a big deal about it. Like,
and you talk about suppression,
right?
Like, because that's the main thing. Like, if we were to go to like a psychotherapist or a psychologist and lay on their couch, the first thing they would tell us to any problem is admitting that there is a problem.
Right.
But like you say, we've been living in this vacuum. Like, yeah, sure, there's some people going, because I actually went to Iraq in 2007.
All right.
But, like the media coverage and, like people actually acknowledging that we have like people abroad fighting wars. Oh, man, you get a better reception for like The Voice last night than you would talking about a war that's going on.
Like, people get annoyed that they're just like, I don't want to hear about, you know what I mean? And you know what? Meanwhile, they're like, Trump, the Democrats, the Republicans. But it's like your tax dollars are going toward, and not only that, I wish the news doesn't even, one of the things they don't tell us is that like we're actually at war in 7 countries. We have air power in 7 countries. We haven't even declared war. We're just flying motherfucking drones around, just shooting people whenever we feel like in 7 different countries, and we don't talk about it. You know what I mean? And we like our whole country is all about like where will we find the money for healthcare, or where will we find the money for this or that. But when it comes to blowing the shit out of brown people around the world, there's no talk of neither side from either side. You know what I mean? Both sides. That's the crazy thing is that like, you know, I think so you having fucking been there and, you know, and me just seeing the world, how it went from, you know, yeah, there was 9/11 and it was really obvious from the beginning that there was no reason to go to war in Iraq. You know, of all places, there was no reason to go there, but we went anyways. And everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. And the news even was like, WB. And then when we all figured out that it was bullshit, nobody was like, oh, our bad, or we should have really, you know, like we really misled you. That nobody said that. And those same people who misled us were the same people telling us that like Russia is like, you know, Russia is controlling everything, or like the same
Vietnam,
like,
if one country falls, you remember that whole thing with Vietnam?
the domino theory. Domino theory.
Vietnam falls.
No, that's why they went to Korea. I mean, that's why my family was kidnapped by the North Koreans. This is the domino theory, which was totally bullshit. There was none of those Asians liked each other. You know what I'm saying? Like they all fought each other all the time. Just because one became commie doesn't mean another one. You know what I mean? Like
none of those Asians like each other.
They don't. If you know anything about Asia, you know that they will fight each other. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no Asian unity. So just that idea is like, I mean, it's just as absurd as like African unity. You know what I mean? Like Africa is a giant continent. You can't get them all to fucking, you know what I mean?
Or
like,
African American unity.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Don't even start with that. Don't even start with that. I can only imagine what it must feel like for you having, you know, been seen like, because now you got a whole generation of kids, Black and Asian kids. I'm like watching them who like basically kind of grew up pretty privileged, pretty well off and privileged, but are acting like they're essentially like the biggest victims of all time. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like sort of, I don't know, especially for like just for say Asians, I've noticed there's a lot of like weird victim fetishizing where they're like, they're really into like microaggressions, and like if you look at them the wrong way or say something like where are you from, suddenly it's like you're a fucking Nazi now. You know what I mean? Like it's just this over extreme reaction to the smallest things. But when I was growing up, I was fucking running away from cholos throwing lemons at me and shit. You know what I mean? Like people were physically assaulting me back in the day.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in LA. So I grew up in K-Town, Hollywood, and then junior high, high school was at Valley, like Sherman Oaks, North Hollywood. So I went back and forth between like pretty bad neighborhood, like hood type neighborhood, like gang places where there's like fucking tags and you had to know what the tags were and shit. and then to like somewhat yeah, but that wasn't that long ago, man. I mean, like that's literally like fucking where all the open mics are and shit, like Melrose and all that shit. That was like, it was all gang territory back in the day. Well, I'm sure you know, you were there in 92. Yeah, it was like not safe, you know? It was not safe at all. So I feel like it's just interesting now to like, I'm sure these things are still bad in some ways, but there's
some areas. Go ahead.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like there's some areas that, you know, like when I first came to Los Angeles, that you knew to stay clear of, you know, like anything going east of like let's say like Western. That was like, you know, you just knew like, okay, I'm in a different area now, or south of Melrose, south of Wilshire.
Yeah, south of Wilshire, yeah. Yeah.
The 110. Oh man. Or
yep.
You know, like at that time I had like the privilege or whatever to be working for a company. So like I had to learn what all the tags meant, whose hood it was, what kind of politicking I had to do to navigate my safety while I was in that hood, or just stay away from that hood, you know. And some of the places have been gentrified now, but if you look hard enough, you can still find some.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's the crazy thing about LA, and you know, LA isn't. I lived in Berkeley and San Francisco for a bit, so I lived up north. After I turned 18, I went to school up there, so I lived there for a while, and then I lived lived there for like 7 years, and then I lived in New York for 12. So I kind of like got to see different cities and sort of, and I grew up here for 18. So like after that, coming back, you really realize that like LA is one of the most segregated cities I think I've lived in. But you know what I mean? Like in terms, it's like, sure, there's diversity. There's a lot of different people you can count, but in terms of where everybody lives, and it's gotten a lot better since back then. But back in the day, it was definitely like they're over there, or they're over there. These people are over there. And
you know,
yeah, and a lot of that I learned in college, especially, was because of these things called housing associations. They basically enforced. It was basically residential segregation, like private residential segregation or whatever. That was like enforced for a while. Yeah, I learned a lot of shit about in the 50s, the cops they got I forgot the guy's name, but they got a new chief. He basically like militarized the police, and their biggest threat was
Daryl Gates.
No, before Daryl Gates. So the guy who was like, Daryl Gates was in the 90s, so I'm talking 50s. So like maybe two chiefs before that guy. So the LAPD used to be like, you ever watch fucking like LA Confidential and those old movies in LA, or like Chinatown? So the LA cops used to be corrupt as fuck. Like that was just what they were known for. Is corruption. It's essentially, if you were rich, you could just get away with anything in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So then this new dude came in and was like, I'm cleaning it, like I'm cleaning everything up. We're gonna fucking militarize, to put a military model to the police, and a lot of the police were soldiers coming back from the war, right? Because this is the 50s. So he recruited a bunch of those guys, sort of had this military model, and then they identified their number one threat was basically white and black people listening to jazz and smoking weed together in Central Avenue. That was like the biggest threat. And this is, pre like Civil War era. This is before people were talking about desegregation, whatever, right? So you got like basically jazz was having this huge revival. This was like post-war bebop type jazz, you know what I'm saying? People doing like lots of speed and weed and fucking going to coffee shops or whatever, like listening to like that shit, So like it was a lot of white and black people kind of hanging out together. And the cops fucking freaked the fuck out and just came in and just broke all of it out. Like these like dudes in riot gear coming in, just fucking beating the shit out of everybody just for hanging out. And then that created an incredible, basically like a racial rift between white and black people, because if so many cops came, just kick the shit out of everybody if you did that. And then it became, that's why Central Avenue, South Central is called South Central, is south of Central Avenue. You know what I mean? Like, because Central Avenue is sort of where it was sort of like the second, they called it like the second Renaissance or whatever, because of the jazz movement there. It was a huge.
They used to have everything over there. They used to have most of the clubs.
Yeah.
And there was, like you said, there was a resurgence. Like one of the places that's still a historical place right now off of Central Avenue is the hotel where most of the mainstream black musicians could only stay in Los Angeles at that time.
Right.
And it's been made a historical monument now, but that whole hub was a lot of the jazz, and that whole hub was a lot of where the riff went down too.
Yeah. And well, it's crazy because like Nipsey Hussle was trying to revitalize that area and stuff, and there's attempts to try to revitalize it, but it's just, I don't know. It's like
well, it's happening now, but it's not happening for black people, because that expo line or that new line that's coming in, it's huge. If you go down Crenshaw Boulevard all the way down past Slauson, all the way to Manchester, you see that a lot of the places that went out of business are now being bought up by Caucasians or big businesses who have their mindset on, okay, this is desired land, and once this train opens up, it's going to be more avenue for more people to live right in the city. Because when you think about it, South LA, as they call it now, is like a jump less than like 15, 20 minutes away from downtown. If there's traffic, of course, it's longer, but even still, if you can get that land right now and people can live there and commute to downtown, because all the money is coming back into downtown, then guess what's going to happen to the people who've been living there forever? They got to go. Yeah. And it's history.
Yeah. I mean, that always happens. I mean, it's just how money works, right? Like money will always, big bank takes little bank, right? Like, but the thing is, I wonder though, because I think that's true, but I think that was true pre-pandemic. You know what I'm saying? Like before there was a pandemic, that was definitely true. Like everything like the property there is probably going to go up, and you know what I mean, like things are going to get nice. But I really wonder how things will change after I mean, who knows when the lockdown will end, you know what I'm saying? But like as it stands, there's most small businesses and middle-sized businesses that are going to fail, you know what I mean? Like most of them are failing right now because especially restaurants and shit, because if you don't have people in there, that's it, you're done, you know? Like most of these places are operating at a loss where they don't even make enough money to make rent, you know, they're just staying open so that they can get the, you know, hopefully become popular and start making money. But I don't know, it was just when
It's the
it's good.
same thing though. Like you see restaurants getting loans.
Uh-huh.
Like once again, it's going to be people who have connections that can
Oh
get
yeah.
those loans, that can keep their businesses afloat.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of those businesses, some are like staples, and some have representatives that are going to look out for them. But then you have a lot of them. Like if you go down, like I live in Reseda now. If you go down
Mm-hmm.
Ventura Boulevard, right in between, I think it's Willis, before you get to Sepulveda,
Mm-hmm.
there's a long stretch of places that are closed, and
Mm-hmm.
immediately they're up for sale.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's just in the valley. I'm not even talking about going over the hill and seeing what kind of like restaurants that are not going to come back. But
Yeah.
then again, you got others who've been able to get these loans or been able to stay afloat, and so the preferred ones are going to be able to stay afloat because
Yeah.
remember, in South LA, you got the Rams Stadium opening up. I think it's supposed to be this year or it's supposed to be next year because they're having the Super Bowl. And then you got the Expo line opening up also. And before the pandemic, they were changing the demographic to get it right for people to come and live there. And
Yeah.
you got the Clipper Sports Center, that the Forum is going to open up, under the Clippers. They're going to have their own sports center. So Inglewood was undergoing a whole transformation. But who was that transformation for? You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying? Because the
Yeah.
rents are steadily going up, and people of color, they're at a ceiling. Not all people of color, but like there are a lot of people that live there. They're not going to be able to make those prices.
Right.
So,
I mean,
there might be a new start of restaurants and a new start of history right out the gate after the pandemic.
yeah, maybe. I mean, you never know. I mean, right? I mean, we have no idea which way this thing's gonna go because it could go either way, you know, because I think before, you know, I think it was like before this whole thing went down, there was a lot of confidence overall in the economy and a lot of sort of like, you know, just at least on the surface, there was a lot of, I think underneath it was obvious that people were just living check to check and people could barely, you know what I mean? Like, I think at the,
Triple
like,
digit budget. We
yeah,
were
I mean, everybody's in fucking debt up to their eyeballs. Like everybody's working like 3 phone jobs they get off their phone or
even the
something, you know what I'm
country
saying?
itself, we owed so much. Our
Oh yeah.
deficit was triple digits.
Oh
But
yeah.
this pandemic, if our country can restart, we're gonna have so much work. We'll be able to wipe that deficit out.
I think so. I do, but I do think it just depends on. It really depends on the policy, man. And I just feel like I don't trust these motherfuckers right now because the election is that, you know what I mean? Like none of them want to do the wrong thing. None of them. Everybody's trying to get the other guy to do something wrong so they could use it. You know what I mean? It's all just politicking right now instead of figuring out the best way to help everybody. You know what I mean?
What
Like,
if,
because
what if this pandemic was a way for us to balance our deficit? You know
yeah,
what I
well,
mean?
that's it.
Like
Well,
wars are always gonna be able to balance a deficit. When you have production going at full speed, you'll be able to balance the national deficit with a war. Wars have always been used to do that. But what, and I'm just saying this because I listen to so many conspiracy theorists, what if this pandemic was unleashed to balance our national budget?
okay, so then we have to step backwards, right? Because what I'm familiar with a lot of the theories. So one of the theories is that the virus is engineered, right? Okay, the
Right,
virus is
right.
real. Okay, there's two. Let's just start at the very beginning. And one,
Sure.
there's the one is virus is real, the virus is not real. That's
Right, right,
there's
right,
a
right.
divergence there. So we're gonna go along with the virus is real. All right, here we are.
Right.
The virus is real. So amongst the virus is real people, you got the virus is just is a man-made engineered thing, or the virus is just a natural thing that happened randomly, right? Those are the two people. So now we're in the virus is engineered man-made camp. Of those people, they either believe China engineered the virus for whatever reason, they engineered it, or they believe the US engineered it. That's sort of the split. The US did. Okay, so now you're saying, what if the US did it on purpose in order to fix the budget. Is that what you're saying? They fix the budget of the United States to put in to start kicking in production or something, like a war, like essentially like a fake war to get us all doing stuff. Is that what the theory is?
There are a lot of theories floating around, because like the people who just see conspiracy are like, yeah, they
Right.
just did it to, like,
Well,
so
but
we'll be making all this stuff and,
yeah,
we'll be
but just
manufacturing,
I
production will
mean,
be up.
just so I'm clear, you're talking about that one though. You're saying like there's people who say that the U.S. engineered the virus in order to get whatever benefit or whatever they think they're going to get out of it, right? That's sort of yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, I guess here's the thing. I think no matter what, I still can't believe all these groups or whatever are that competent. You know what I mean? They just aren't. They just are not. You know what I mean? Like, because here's why I think that. First of all, just the fact that Trump got elected tells me, and these motherfuckers did not want to be elected at all. They did not. It's so obvious they did not. The fact that he got elected kind of tells me that, like, oh, okay, maybe the election is actually a real fit. Maybe it actually seems to work. You know what I mean? Because if they just want whoever they want, they would just put a motherfucker in. You know what I'm saying? Like, they would just put a person in, and who cares? Like, but they can't even do that. So they can't even rig the election, really. I mean, they can try, but they can't. Then for 3 years, they try to get him on this Russia thing. Okay. And I'm talking like the CIA and the FBI and the NSA, like the fucking most powerful spy organizations, most money on the planet were working because they hated this motherfucker. And they couldn't get anything. They couldn't do it. They couldn't pull it off. They couldn't get it. Okay. Then they tried to impeach the motherfucker on actually a whole other thing and try to link it to the old thing. But that also fell apart, right? So after all that, I find it really hard to believe that then they could engineer a super virus, unleash it in China, you know what I mean? And then have everything go perfectly according to plan when they can't even, you know what I mean? They barely can do some simple shit. I just don't see them being able to do anything that complex. And I don't see everybody being able to cooperate. It just seems too honestly, I believe with most things, it's like incompetence combined with opportunism. So like, you just kind of fuck up, something happens, and then you go, okay, here we go. Let's take advantage. You know what I mean? You just take advantage of it because the poor. The rich will get richer, the poor get poor. Let's go, everybody. You know what I mean? I think that's just human nature. Just to take, so even the fucking Chinese, which, it came out of fucking China, knowing the Chinese government, because the fucking thing about the Chinese government is they have nobody else. So it's like, imagine if there's only one party ruling this country. You know what I mean? Like, at least we have a check against whoever.
But see, here's the thing too. Here's another thing that, like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but here's another thing that, like, a lot of people think we have the Republican Democratic Party, which is true. But there's an underlying power of wealth.
Oh, yes.
Both of those.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which in some ways, China is more honest in that way.
Because you know what you're getting.
Yeah, it's either us or them. It's them. You know what I mean? They're just very clear. China, that's at least something I've heard. I think Kurt Metzger is a great comedian. You should check out Kurt Metzger. You'd like him a lot. He says this a lot about China, where it's like, at least you know where the lines are with them. You know what I mean? Here, they just keep moving the fucking lines. I have no idea. One day you're okay, and the next day you're not. You know what I mean? It's actually, but like, the thing about China is, like, I can only imagine they're like, oh shit, we got this virus. Let's just try to hush it. We'll just try to, and then they're like, uh-oh, it's getting a little bit bigger now. We should try to, oh no.
Let's manufacture everything.
And then they've got,
and they come up with a vaccine.
Well, so I think even, so you can't even trust the shit that comes out of China, but the shit that did come out of China, what it kind of showed was that, like, there were people who were like trying to tell the public the shit was going on, and then the government would come and silence them, stop them, and then try to cover it up. But then it would just blow up just fucking blew up. And the next thing you know, the whole world's catching it. And then they're like, oh yeah, man, like, we were on top of this from the beginning. Yeah, we totally knew. Yeah, we were warning you, everybody. Yeah, like, and so it's like, I don't believe that they like got together and was like, let's make this perfect fucking virus that's gonna get, because in some ways it does feel like a perfect virus because it doesn't kill the babies. You know what I'm saying? It's killing all the old people. You know what I mean? It's scary enough.
But now they've got a strand that's killing the babies. You know, I don't know if you've been looking at stuff, but like a lot of kids are starting to come down with this new strand.
I've heard that, but I think in terms of the numbers, it's still like, you know what I mean? It's
In
like
its
they're,
infantile stage.
well, those babies will die. No, honestly, those are probably just weak babies, is what I'm saying. those are babies that would die of a draft. You know what I'm saying? Why do we have to save every baby? I'm like, that's what I. That's where I. You know what? I'm glad we're having this talk.
Babies are expendable.
You know what? Listen, back in the day in Sparta, they would take the baby, put it outside for a night, right? And if it lived, then it lived. But if not, that's nature. And who are we? That's what I think, Trent. They're thumbing our eye in Mother Nature's eye. We're putting our thumb in Mother Nature's eye. We're like, fuck you, Mother Nature. We're better than you. You think you can make weak babies?
Hey, and that can be said about the old people too. How dare you think you're gonna grow old on medicine? You have to survive on your own merits, or boom, it's like the old days.
I mean, it isn't really too far from what we do now. We just put them in homes. We just don't look at them. We don't. It would be nicer if we watched them die outside. Honestly, I mean, I honestly think we owe it to them to fucking witness them dying, like instead of hiding them away. You know what I mean? That's another reason. That's another reason China and countries like that were hit so hard, because they all live with their fucking old people.
Right.
They all end up living with them, and that's why they all got sick and they all died and shit. Like, you know, we put them away in homes, as like Americans should, and, you know, and so that they can die over there. We don't have to look at them, all right?
And then we can go, see, I told you the best thing for them was the home. Look at all the rates in the homes.
Yeah, see, told you. Now sign this will before you go. How much is that property worth that you have? You know,
those old photos.
I mean, can you imagine how much worse this thing would be if it was just kids dying? You know, this thing, we would be fucking panicking. You know what I mean? Like, it would be a nightmare if it was just babies dying everywhere. But, you know, but on the other hand, remember fucking Newtown or whatever, when that dude went in and shot up all those kindergartners? Do you remember that? No, we didn't give a fuck about that. Those were little white babies too. Those are little rich white babies, you know? No, that's what I mean. You know what I mean? Of all the babies.
Were they Jewish?
No, they were white. It was Connecticut.
Oh.
It was like Connecticut. It was like, you know what I mean? Like nice, like just suburban from Jersey and so whatever. Just really nice, you know, just like you would never expect anything to happen, and well off. Like people were very well off. You know what I mean?
See, I love when people say you would never expect anything to happen, because that's when shit happens.
I know.
Because criminals go, now, this is a place where nobody would think anything would happen.
And that's when you do it. Yeah. But that's also why you can't ever protect everybody all the time. You know, that's why you can't follow that line of logic for doing things, because it's like, well, at any given second, anything could happen. How are we supposed to protect everybody from everything? Like, how are we going to do that? You know what I mean? Like,
let me ask you this. What do you think about masks on that same situation, on that same line of protecting everyone? What do you think about masks?
No, masks are a rational thing. The thing is, like, our, especially this country, the discourse has become so like childlike that you can't have like a complex, nuanced discussion. So here's the thing, like, here's what my take on masks, and a lot of it is just like, I get it because my people, you know, because of Asians, they fucking wear the mask. They've done it for a long ass time. And so in East Asia, it's part of just courtesy that if you're sick, that you wear a mask. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to get your
courtesy being the key word.
Yes, it's a courtesy. It's polite, right? It's polite. That's what they do. Okay. In times of a pandemic, they also know that if everybody wears them, then it's a collective action to reduce. You know, we're all doing this for each other, so we get it.
Reduce, not eliminate, but reduce. Thinking about the collective.
Okay. So if you understand the transmission of the virus, okay, this particular virus isn't airborne, right? It doesn't float in the air, it doesn't infect people in the air. What it does is it lives in water, okay? So that means when you cough, sneeze, whatever, or breathe, talk, little tiny drops of water come out, right? And that's what the mask is doing. It's catching those drops of water, so you stop the spread of those. So it's really more about you stopping the spread of other people. And since this virus, there's a lot of asymptomatic people. That's what that's for. You don't know if you have it. So, but if you are outside and breathing and you have the virus and the virus there, it doesn't just fucking float around in infinity forever and find somebody. You know what I mean? It doesn't just live. It's not like
the lantern ring.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like a fucking, you know what I mean? It doesn't just, the virus literally dies in seconds in the sunlight, in the heat, as water evaporates. You know what I'm saying? Like the virus is dying. It needs to be inside of a person. It needs to be, I mean, it could be on they've done tests where they've like found it on surfaces and shit like that for like a number of hours, but those are like under laboratory settings, and they're talking about like finding some viruses versus all of it. You know what I mean? It's not like exact. So overall, there's a big reason why sunlight is a healthy thing for people. There's a big reason why outdoors is you don't seem to catch it as much outdoors than you do indoors. You know what I'm saying? So for me, the way I think of it is like, I'll put on a mask to go in a store because it's polite for the people working there, because those motherfuckers are exposed to hundreds of people every day. You know what I mean? So every single person who comes in is like exposing, you know what I mean? Like, so I'll do that because that makes sense. If I'm taking a lift or some shit, right? Because now I'm in a tight space with one person. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always just gonna operate under the assumption that I have it. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't matter. It's not gonna stop you from getting it from somewhere. Right. So you might as well just assume you have it and just think that way and be like, and that's the thing about Americans, they don't like to think like, oh, I'm the problem. You know, it's always everybody else is the problem and don't hurt me. So we have so it's like, you have to be a little more Asian in that way and be like okay.
You said, this virus has exposed our childlike discord. Yeah. Because we can't have, you know, and that was the climate moving toward the pandemic, because even in terms of politics, we always talk about religion, politics, and taxes. But now you can see, you open your mouth about one of these three things, and it's like,
I mean, come on, man. It's not just opening your mouth. It's like asking a question. All you have to do is like, hey, why is that? And then they'll go, why are you causing the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people? You know what I mean? And you're just like, holy shit, you can't even. I've literally seen people just post something like, have an open mind. And then just these people just jump on it and go, they're like, this disinformation is spreading and people will watch it and die. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking? What are you even talking? Like, doesn't even make any sense. Like, first of all, so I think, and I agree, it was definitely before the pandemic, because if you look at it, I think honestly, it happened with Trump. It was like, the Trump happened, and instead of the nation sort of like, just kind of dealing with it and moving forward, they just kept warring. It was like war kept going on. You know what I mean? There's no like.
But I dare say it started, you know, like a little bit the trickle down from Bush.
Yeah.
And then it started getting really bad with Obama, because like when I would go places and talk to regular whites, the whites I like to call them, not the progressive, not the open-minded, but the I'm gonna stand my ground whites. Yeah. Oh my God. You couldn't even say anything about
That's true.
Obama.
Well, okay. Well, I remember, you know what? Honestly, if I keep thinking, it just keeps going back, because remember right after 9/11, Bush, like the Dixie Chicks said they were like ashamed of Bush, and then they got canceled. So back then the right was canceling everybody, right? You couldn't, and the left was actually with them. They were together canceling people anybody who said anything bad about the president or the government, you'd be fucking canceled immediately because you're un-American, right? So that was actually a right-wing thing. And then I think during the Obama years, it all kind of went to the left, where the left started canceling people for being racist or having saying a tweet that was anti-gay or something. You know what I mean? They started going through people's past and like, and now I think we're sort of at a place where it's like both sides are doing it at the same time, where to the point where it's almost lost its meaning. It's completely like absurd now. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's like ridiculous. Like even the Me Too movement is all crumbled. Like, you know what I mean? It's obvious. Like there's this whole article.
You see the hypocrisy.
Yeah, exactly.
You hear all the yelling and screaming, but you see the hypocrisy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's becoming more and more evident to people, and what the political system and the media has done has whipped the country up into two sides. And honestly, it's because I think it's just to market to them. So you can market to them. You know, you have this side,
and
yeah, just sell. You sell it. It's just for sales.
The bad part is the people are the pawns.
Right. We suffer. Yes.
they keep foddering the fire. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because like
Right.
you and I, like I love it when I can have any kind of rational conversation, whether
Yeah.
it's about Jordan, whether it's about this or that. But you have attitudes that are so pervasive now. It's
Yeah.
either my way or you're my enemy. And
Right.
I'm like, to me, and this sounds corny as hell, but that's un-American.
Yeah.
And as a comedian who believes in free speech, that's an assault on my rights.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's happening now. You know, it's happening now where there's comedians questioning the lockdown, comedians questioning, you know, the facts, and then people saying that, and then other comedians snitching on those comedians for trying to like get together, and like, you know,
Yeah.
they're comedians trying to get together, have mics, whatever. Yeah, let them do it. Who cares? Like, they know the risks by now. We know the risks. It's been fucking 2 months since this fucking virus came out. We understand the risks. We're all fucking locked down. So if people are starting to fucking go crazy and like, you know, they need to do stuff, I think I don't see like, you know, I get from a public health perspective where you're like, we're trying to protect the people or whatever that. But I think in order to continue with that mindset, then we should be very rigorous about looking at the data, like what's going on right now then. Because if you really look at it, it's not panning out the way they said. You know what I mean? It's not actually going the way they said it would go. So then what is happening? You know, but as soon as you start asking that question, now you're like, you're a Republican or something. You know, not, dude, I've been called a secret Trump voter. It's awesome. I think it's hilarious. I think it's so hilarious. And people are like, are you a secret Trump voter? What are you trying to say? Like, what is your agenda? Right? And I was like, I just think it's hilarious because like, I was like, dude, if first of all, if you think I'm a secret Trump voter, you don't know me, because if I was, I would not shut the fuck up about it. Are you kidding me? Of all the things Trump's gotten away with, like, Trump is actually pretty much a G. Like, if I was on his, I wish I loved him, because I would be so, I'd be like, Russia Gate, impeachment. Like, they tried to get him with Stormy Daniels. They tried to get him.
And isn't this all a waste of taxpayer dollars?
Oh, yeah. No, it's a waste of
See,
time.
I tell people this, and people hate me for this, you know, because people said, all right, we ready for a woman president?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Hey.
But at the same time, we might have been more motivated if it wasn't Hillary Clinton.
Right. I think
Hated her so bad that they were willing to put this guy in office. She thought she won the election before she even ran the election.
Yeah.
And she did nothing to try to win states or secure the win in states that she needed to win. And so, number one, you had 8 years of a black man, which a lot of the country did not like. And now you're going to try to run a woman down? Yeah, you would have been better off trying to like introduce something else.
Honestly, I think I agree with you to a certain point. I think it was just her. I think it was just Hillary, man. I think if they had found a better woman, they found a better woman, honestly, they could have won. Because the thing about Hillary was she ran against Obama back before, you know what I mean? Like, and all that racist shit that came out with that Trump ran with, that's actually from her side. That's her team came up with all that shit, and then the Republicans ran with it. You know what I mean? Like, so she's the one who she called black guys super predators, or young teenagers actually. And then her husband passed all those laws. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and then on top of that, they got the NAFTA thing. So that's poor white people too. Poor white, poor black. Like, so everybody was basically associated her with the shitty, but not Obama. You know what I mean? Like, so they liked Obama, didn't like her. And I think it's the hubris of, it was my turn.
Yeah.
It was my turn.
That's
you
it
know?
right there. The hubris of it was my turn. And the fact that you alienated a whole bunch of people when you took it away from Bernie Sanders.
Oh, that's, yeah. You also stole it from Bernie.
It was like that scene in that movie with Marlon Brando. It's not your time.
Right, yeah. Right.
You know? Bernie Sanders was gaining momentum, and the Democratic National Party said, Bernie, it's not your time. It's Hillary's time. Like you said.
The fucking Bernie, though, I don't know. I was just like, the thing that disappointed me about Bernie is that he's just like, okay, look, you know, I support Hillary Clinton. No, I mean, it's just like, why would you support this woman who just literally robbed you? She robbed. Like, that's the thing. It's like, he knew that he was robbed by her, you know what I'm saying? And he was just like, okay, he went with it, you know, and they all went with it. And
but see, that's American politics. You know what I mean? Like we see that to a degree when we watch these shows, but they basically said, "Hey, look, you're not going to be the man." Same thing when they put Kennedy in the office. I mean, everybody loved Kennedy, but it was a consensus to put Kennedy in office. And then when he didn't do the things that fulfill the promises that he made, he stepped on a lot of powerful toes. Once again, we have Republicans, we have Democrats, but we have a power base that dictates how things really go.
Oh yeah.
And it
I
was
mean,
the same thing.
yeah, and sure, and that's like what all this deep state stuff is, and what all this stuff, and it's like that. It's not really that much of a. There's no conspiracy. It's like it's pretty obvious. They're right there. They're right there in front of. They're not hiding it at all. These guys they're all spying on us. They lie to Congress. They do all this stuff that they arrest other people for, right? But they're okay with breaking the law. It's okay if they break the law, but not us. Like so, yeah. I think that's pretty clear. Yeah, and I think Kennedy is actually for me a good time. From Kennedy onwards, you notice every single president seems to play ball. Every single president seems to be like,
you gotta know how to play ball, because that movie with De Niro, they touched on a little part where Jimmy Hoffa wouldn't play ball.
Oh yeah, the
Jimmy
Irishman.
Hoffa had the humor to think he was bigger than the machine.
Yeah, that's why I don't believe this whole narrative about they really like the media hates Trump, or like first of all, like I think the media loves Trump because Trump is making them a shitload of money. Like, do you think anybody would watch the news if it was President Hillary Clinton? You know what I mean? The news would be boring as fuck.
No, you have to have a hero.
Yeah,
and
it's
you
pro
have
wrestling.
To have a villain.
Yeah, it's all pro wrestling now. That's
and
the thing about
who does more to amp up the people than the villain.
That's what a lot of people say is that 2016, the problem was, I think it's Kurt Metzger, but he said like 2016 was supposed to be Bernie versus Trump because Bernie was a babyface, Trump was the heel. But instead, the Democrats ran a heel, Hillary Clinton, and tried to sell her as a babyface to the people. And that's why she was rejected. You know what I'm saying? Because you have a bullshit, like we obviously know she's not the babyface, so we might as well just pick the guy we know is being, that's seriously, that's what people did. But now think about the reaction afterwards to be like, no, it was Russia. Right? To not be like, yeah, maybe we should have gone to what was it? She didn't go to Michigan. She didn't go to Wisconsin, right? She called them all deplorables and racist retards, essentially. You know what I mean? She basically just, snubbed her nose at all of them.
And the votes she needed to get from ethnic groups.
Yep.
I mean, she needed a large proportion of the black people.
Yep.
She came across as this old plantation on a child, honey, and that. People were
carried hot sauce in her purse. Remember when she?
Yes. Yes. And I mean, it goes back to what you said about it's my turn. And there was this thing going where people were saying we're tired of entitled people. We're tired of this PC world where people are feeling like they're entitled to do this, entitled to that. And here she comes. And like you said, my man said they ran a heel and tried to pose her as a baby face.
Yep.
But everybody saw that, and see, this is the part where people get angry with me. People said, I would rather vote for the obvious heel than the heel in baby face clothing.
Yes. Right. And they get mad at you for that? Well, that's actually where we are as a society. Isn't that fabulous? Isn't that interesting? Where we would rather be lied to. That's what people are saying. People are saying, please lie to me. Please lie to my face. I don't like the truth. I don't want to know that the people in power who are supposed to protect us actually exploit and abuse us at every turn. I would rather just be a fantasy. Yeah, I would rather just be in a coddled fantasy where it's just everybody's good and nice. Remember Obama? Obama was so nice. I mean, Obama was the master. He was actually the pinnacle of like everybody likes the guy, even if you can go, hey, he did all these shitty things. He actually did these terrible things, but I still like the guy. You know what I mean? Like people say that. Like I can be like, yeah, it was pretty shitty how he drank the water in Flint. That's crazy. I can't believe he actually did that. But I still like the guy. And if you really think about if Trump went to Flint, Michigan, and fucking picked up some water and was like, "This is the best water," and just fucking drank it, like people would be like, "You monster! People are gonna die now." You know what I mean? Like people would be like,
and see
crazy.
That's where we are as a collective group of Americans. we like the narrative. If the
Right.
narrative works, fuck the truth. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I'm sure you've heard me say I didn't vote for Obama
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because for me, you know, at that time I had just come from Iraq and he was talking about taking the military out.
Right.
And I was like, no, we need the military there now. You can't just say, okay, stop, pump the
Right.
brakes. You
Right.
know,
Right.
we're
Yeah.
in so deep now. Let's just turn around and come out.
Yeah.
And there were other things too. And I mean, I also know when I speak, you know, that he was limited in what he was going to do. From day one, Mitch McConnell said, I'm not going to let this nigga do anything. You
Right.
know what I mean? And he
Yeah.
made that his mission to block bills and block things. And so, like you said, Obama knew how to play ball. People hated him, people liked him, but he knew how to play ball. Drinking that water was another way of just saying, hey, there's nothing wrong with this water. But if you look at my post in an hour, because I was about to do this morning, you know, it's 2020 and people
Yeah.
are screaming about nail shops being open and barber shops being open, and Flint still does not have clean water.
Yeah. They got no clean water. They got no clean water. I mean, remember Guantanamo? Remember he was like, I'm gonna, and it was like, no, no, we're not quite. I mean, you know, if you actually just removed the person Obama and just looked at his record on paper, you know what I mean? You'd be like, holy shit! Like we expanded the wars from 2 to 7. You know, we expanded he started the war in Yemen, which is actually probably the worst thing. Honestly, if Trump should be impeached for anything, it's Yemen. You know, like there's war crimes that he's actually committing right now. There's a genocide literally going on that's on our dime going on right now that's signed off by Obama, but then also Trump. You know, so that's the
But
whole
like
reason.
what you said, you know how to play ball.
Right, gotta play ball. Well,
Give
so
and take.
right, well, to survive, yes.
Exactly.
Like,
I was
we
just
want
about to say
live.
that.
Yeah,
Because
to
if you
survive.
don't, you end up like Kennedy.
Yeah, exactly. To survive. I mean, that's what I mean. So even Trump, love him or hate him, is in that position as well. Like this motherfucker is got a target on his fucking
The
head,
only
and he
thing
knows it.
about Trump that makes him so bad is he makes us look at ourselves. Because
I
every
know.
time we scream at how horrible he is,
Uh-huh.
look at society. He
Well,
is the personification of America.
exactly. Well, here's what I think. We are both Trump and Obama. Like that's, you know what I'm saying? Those two presidents define the American character at this moment. You know what I mean? Post 9/11, post what we decided to do. You know, like so we did a thing, right? 2003, we just launched a fucking invasion, you know, into Iraq, and now we're fucking there. Like, and we decided to do a thing, and then the presidents following that are basically a reflection of our society. You know, from that, and Obama makes sense. Obama makes sense because we were teetering on the edge, right? We could have fucking everything could have collapsed because there's a financial collapse. Like, everything, the shit could have gone down. So thank God Obama came in, gave everybody hope. Whatever, everybody got, you know, the country didn't
Good
collapse.
narrative.
Yeah. Everybody, a lot of people. Interestingly, when that happened, a lot of people became like really pro-America, pro-state, right? We believe in America now. We're all that, right? And then Trump comes along, right? Which is when the pendulum swings the other way. Now you got this guy coming in. Honestly, I think it's also because the Democrats just had nobody. Like it's like Obama came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole thing. It's like Obama kind of was like the Trump of the Democratic Party, except he I mean, yeah, it pretty much was. He's like came in, unified the party out of nowhere, was super populist, and people just like,
I'm going to tell
you
you
know.
like this. Both parties have nobody. And here's why I say that.
Yes.
Because in order to really have somebody, you've got to be able to have somebody who's going to do good for the people.
Right. And
You
who?
can't be the president of the United
Nah.
States and not take care of that 1% of the rich. Because that 1% of the rich tells you how you move.
Right.
You know, like when you're a kid, you want to be a police officer. Then you get on the front lines and people are micromanaging you and people are calling you stupid and spitting on you and charging, you know, like wanting to fight you. Then you see the reality of it. It's the same thing with the president. Man, there are so many groups that get in bed with you and expect you to do their bidding.
Yeah.
You have to do their bidding, or else, once again, you're not playing ball. And once again, you'll end up like Kennedy. President, what was it, Bush? We talk about how stupid Donald Trump is. I don't know how old you were at that time, but Bush was like an idiot every single day.
Yeah.
And this was our reflection because we put him there.
Yes. And it's no different. Every president, it's, with every president is a reflection of us. Yeah, that's us. It's perfect. The guy is right now. Trump is the perfect guy, perfect reflection. That is literally who we are. And people are mad at it. And instead of it being introspective and looking inward, being like, oh shit, that's me, they just go, they act like him. They basically act just like him too.
Just like when I tell people, I say, yeah, it was great, that there was a man of color, black man that was the president.
Right.
But what did you exactly think he was going to do?
Yeah.
Did you think he was going to come in and go, okay, 430 years of oppression, I'm going to change this shit. Nobody going to stop me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like he'd be like reparations for everybody, and we're gonna, like he was gonna. No, you got to play ball. Doesn't matter who's in there. Maybe that's why they can't get a woman in there. Maybe because she won't play ball. Is that why?
Well,
no, Hillary. Hillary would have played ball. That's the thing. Hillary, Hillary would have played ball. Hillary would have fucking started World War III. I mean, Hillary would have been in there to prove that she could have done it. She had the biggest dick of all, I think. Like, dude,
but she was just so god awful.
She's a terrible candidate. Terrible.
And the Democrats tried at her I love that statement. You tried to put, masquerade this person as a baby.
Yeah, it was a heel. Yeah, it's a bad guy. So you're trying to fool us and say this bad guy's a good guy, and people but that's the other thing is that they really think people are that dumb. That's how dumb they think people are.
Here's the bad part. It's like the workforce rule. There's your 10% that they're super achievers. There's your 80% that are like the medium or the average folks. And then there's your 10% that are just stupid fucks, malcontents, and not going to do anything. Bad part is, with the election, I dare say that 70% or 80% of the regular people are your malcontents who don't care as long as the voice is on, who don't care as long as you got sports or you got the clubs popping or this, that, or the other. These last couple of elections and the people that we have in the office have put the onus on looking at the men in the office. But at the same time, why do you think people are screaming for, their entertainment and all this other stuff? Because we got to look at shit we don't want to look at.
Right.
We want to look at all the cool shit and then go back to the fantasy of there are people in those pay grades that know more than us. When really, now we're kind of seeing that no, they're just like us. Some of them are actually worse than us.
Yeah, that's why, when people are like, we're trying to prevent all these deaths or whatever, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure we really deserve to live. I'm not sure. Why do we murder people around the world like fucking like nothing? Like nothing. Literally like nothing. It's a day. It's another day, another dollar. Speaking of, what did you do in Iraq? What did you do over there?
Oh, I was telling jokes. I used to tour for like this. It's like my background's a little different. I took a break for about 8 or 9 years because I was on a crash course with life. And so I had to really slow down, but I used to travel around the country, around the world telling jokes. And like now all my predecessors have gone on to, really cement themselves in the comedy game. And I didn't want to come back asking people for anything. So I just humbled myself and started doing open mics and really, like you said, now with more of a perspective, now with more knowledge of myself, now I can talk about what I want to talk about. And if you don't care, fuck you. So when I stand on stage and I say, I didn't vote for Barack Obama and people look at me like I got a horn coming out of my head, I think you can understand why now. It wasn't like I was going to go, wow, I don't want to see a black man in office. I would love to see. But what does that mean?
Right. But that's not
now
a question.
You have people questioning his legacy now, and people are like, "Oh, you just hate the black man." Like you said, take the man away. Look at the resume. Yeah, sure. I know because I've had to research it. He did a lot of things, and like you said, we were teetering on the brink, and he did a lot of things for this country. But like Guantanamo, talking about socialism, talking about the military, there were a lot of things that I just didn't agree with and I wasn't going to sign on with just because he was black,
right?
And that makes me a traitor to the nation. Well, okay, But at the same time, I love my free speech.
Right. Now,
And
here's
so
the thing. Just this conversation could be the most dangerous thing on the planet right now.
I'm sitting there
It's just
watching
like
you going, if I never see you again, Rojan.
you know, I just want to say publicly, I do not have any suicidal thoughts.
Me
I
neither.
love life.
And Jeffrey
For the
Epstein
yeah.
is a dick.
We're on board. Whatever it is, we're all for. Whatever you want us to say, it's fine. I don't care. Yeah, I don't want to kill myself. But hey, well, okay, a number of things. First of all, I think maybe it's just my prejudice as a comic. Now it makes me respect you even more as a person, knowing that you used to be a comedian back in the. Well, because I knew. Well, in some ways, that's crazy that like. I respect it when people who were like, comedians, working comics or whatever, just start over and are just like, fuck it, I'm just doing open mics, and they know what this is and they do it too, and they're not fucking being like, I don't know, like
I'm too big for this mic.
you never put up that vibe. Yeah, you never put up that vibe, and which is also hilarious because I think, at least for you, you got to just see how people treated you because they have no idea. They just think you're just some loser guy. You know what I mean? Like, because that's essentially what we all are, right? We're just fucking open mic
Actually,
losers, right? Like,
I dare to differ with you right there because
Uh-huh.
since I've been back,
uh-huh.
I have seen some of the most beautiful minds.
Oh
And
no,
I get really excited.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
no,
love
no,
that.
no, no.
I love the self-deprecation that
Yeah,
we
yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah. I love
on the
comedy.
real.
Trust me. Yeah. But
That line you said, like you're one of those people that's why I started out with the hairline, because I thought the hairline was brilliant. You know what I mean? And I've seen you do that. But also when you said, I guess we're back to normal, people getting killed again, I said, that's the kind of shit I signed up for. You know what I mean? To
oh,
really,
thank you, man. Yeah,
to
yeah.
really like push the thought process. I'm never gonna change Republicans. I'm never gonna change Democrats.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna change hardcore this or hardcore that. But if I can make somebody go, that shit right there.
Well, it's
I
funny
wish I could do that.
well, you do other things, first of all. You make people laugh. You're funny as fuck. I mean, that's the other thing. You're just like, this guy's funny naturally. I was like, oh, great. I'm always like happy when funny people start to do comedy. I don't care how old they are or when they start doing it or whatever. I mean, I always joke about like, it's too late, or, don't even, you should just quit. I always joke about it, but that's just because like, that's what you're supposed to do. And
and many have done it before you,
well,
many,
yeah.
and that's
exactly.
what's called sense of humor.
Right, exactly. If you have a sense of humor, you should be able to survive. Well, that's the whole Dave Chappelle thing with just because Louis C.K. jerked off in front of you doesn't mean you should quit comedy. You know what I mean? Like you could still keep doing it. Like you could write a bit about it. I don't know. You could just survive, because comedy for a lot of people, for me, is a survival mechanism. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like I have to. If I don't do it, it's like I get sicker. You know what I mean? Like I actually have to do it. Like it's like compulsion or whatever. So, and that's
and I just love to do it because, like, here again, sense of humor. That was something that when my first go around, I was funny, but I couldn't make the connection from being like with my friends and my family to like that same funny transferring completely on stage without having to get high or without having to get drunk or bang a couple of chicks, But now that I understand what having a sense of humor is, it's you saying, this is what I think is funny.
Hey.
Fuck people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I think at some point you have, because I'm 9 years in now. So at this point I feel like, all right, I feel like I can establish that, like, all right, I'm the funny one here. Like when I'm doing stand up and I'm on stage, I have the microphone, I'm the funny one. And so I don't really care if you don't think it's funny. Like we're just gonna, we're gonna get through this somehow. You know what I mean? Like
get through it.
Yeah, we're gonna get through it. And honestly, this is more for me now than for you. So I guess you got to deal with it now. I don't know. Like I think just being able to do that. But I think for me and maybe for you too, it's part of the. For me, like I have like a obsession with honesty, or maybe like too much on, like crossing the line where it's like too much on. honesty.
But then ultimately, you learn how to taper that into your craft.
Right.
Because that's
Exactly.
what I didn't understand either. Because the honesty gets rejected and it fucks with your mind because you're like, but I'm only being honest. But people are like, no, that's too honest. But
Right.
the artistry comes from knowing how to interject the honesty and layer it around shit that people can digest, which is
Right.
called humor.
Right. And to create that involuntary response, you know, the laughter that comes from when they realize the contradiction, right? Like whatever the hypocrisy of the contradiction is, you know, or if they understand where I'm coming from. Yeah. And then it comes out, and that's what, yes, that's why they hate me. And that's why they hate
They
us.
loosen you buy the new Porsche, they loosen the brakes on your car, and then Rojan dies mysteriously.
You know, hey, I'm just saying, they're gonna blame it on me being Asian. It'll be like Asian comedian crashed his car. There's nobody around.
I tell people all the time, if I mysteriously come up dead and they try to
Uh,
make it a suicide, I've had 2 people in my life commit suicide. In my family, my sister and my stepfather. And there's no way on record that I would ever kill myself. And I didn't even watch Jeffrey Epstein because I was so against it.
Boom. See, you heard it here first, everybody. Okay, it was Hillary Clinton. If you find his body, if Trenton is dead, it was Hillary Clinton. We're putting it right now on record.
But you know what? This is what I've always feared, even before like this climate right here, because I say, you know, when you can tell the truth and you develop like a Pied Piper following, they've got 2 choices. They can character assassinate you, or they can physically assassinate you.
Right.
And you watch that all the time.
Right. Well, thankfully, I don't think a comedian has really been killed yet. You know, like nobody really has. I don't know. It's like you're really gonna go through
Sam
all that
Kinison?
effort. Well,
Sam
he killed
Kinison?
himself. Most comedians just kill themselves.
But did he kill himself?
Oh, you think that was was he onto something? You think
I mean, this guy right here was like the epitome of the truth, because or a contradiction, because he started out as a
preacher. Yeah. Well, they make the best. I mean, well, that's the thing. It's like preachers are the most dangerous motherfuckers. You know, they do, because they get in people's souls. They do. You get people all like, you can get them to do stuff. You know, you get them to do all kinds of things. But what about people say Bill Hicks too? Bill Hicks, Richard Pryor, like a lot of the guys who kind of ended up with diseases or whatever that But you know what? Those guys did so much coke. You know how much coke and fucking, like, there's the thing. They also did a lot of
they
partying.
did so much coke because they had to cope with telling the truth.
Oh no, I'm not saying I wouldn't have. I'm just saying.
And a lot of times, you know, even I, like, this is the other part of why I took a hiatus. But I never did coke because I had an uncle that OD'd on heroin. But you could find me shutting down clubs, partying late into the morning, shit like that. And then I looked at myself and I said, what am I doing with my life? Because I'm having, quote unquote, fun, but when does the fun stop and the progression go? Because I was always, busy,
Right.
but I was really in this party stage where I liked the partying more than I actually liked doing my job.
Right.
And when you see people that are always trying to escape via drugs or any kind of chemicals, you have to ask yourself, what's going on there? And somebody asked me that, and I couldn't answer it. And so I was like, wow, man, I'm not really having as much fun as I think I'm having, because I'm always like either drunk or, smoking weed out the yin yang, or, my pastime was really like having meaningless sex, and I don't see nothing wrong with that to this day, but my therapist.
What a pussy. Come on, live life.
Judging me. I'm like, you're not supposed to judge me. You're supposed to ask the questions. I feel judgment.
How long has it been since this therapist has been laid? That's what I want to. That's what.
Not that I didn't try.
I've been there. I've not to say I haven't. That's usually like, I tend to like therapists that I'm attracted to, or at least, I don't know, it's more comforting for some reason. Like I never really liked dudes as therapists. I think everybody has
Dudes
it.
and doctors. I mean, doctors and therapists.
Oh,
Like
actually, me
this.
too. Yeah, me too.
And I don't know what that says about me, but I don't want some man giving me a prostate examination. Give me a female to give me a prostate examination. I'm like, hey.
I mean, for me, I was molested, so that might be. I don't know if that happened to you, but I mean,
I tell people all the time I was almost molested, but
but that's
that's when
enough.
I learned. That's
That's
when I
enough.
learned I was a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
actor.
yeah,
That's when
yeah,
I
yeah.
learned I had the acting chops.
Yeah, that's
And
all that survival shit. Yep.
I told my accuser, I said, you can make me have oral sex with you, but if you do, I'll bite your fucking penis off. And he
Nice.
believed me and
And
told
you
me to get
sold.
out of his house. And
Oh
then right
man.
after that, I moved to Hollywood.
God damn. Thank God he didn't call your bluff. Thank
I
God he
know.
didn't. Thank God he didn't.
But see, being a narcissist, I'm like, because I was a terrific actor.
You had a 50-50. I mean, he could have been like, oh yeah, let's see. You'd have been like, fuck. Now I gotta do it. I don't know. That would have been
But
an awesome bit.
something too. You said something that was really key because that was traumatizing. Just that whole almost.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
never ever processed it like that. I've always processed it the other way. Like I'm not a victim. I stood up to my. But
Uh-huh.
maybe I have to look deeper into that because that I'm sure it's had an adverse effect on my life and choices that I make and stuff like that too.
Oh yeah.
But I don't care about people sucking dick though. That's your.
No. But like, honestly, that's actually a hilarious bit. You get a really good bit out of that because you basically have an entire scenario to act out as your younger self and go through the motions of doing it and as your older self looking back. You know what I mean? Like,
Now try it because I have been doing this. But years ago, when I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing it, and I was meeting that staunch look of that's too real. And not being sure of yourself.
yeah. Of course. And I think that's natural because it is it's dark. But not just dark. It's like personal. It's revealing. It's vulnerable. It's all those things. And to access what's funny about it, you have to go through the discomfort. Everybody has to go through it. Everybody has to go through it. I mean, you have to subject people. That's my joke. I say, comedy subjective. That's why I'm subjecting you to this right now, right? Like, that's what we're doing. We're subjecting people to these things. Like, and so I think that's your process. You have to make them go through the scene with you and figure out what's funny, and then you can hit those bits,
That's what I love about you and other comics that I have seen since I've come back. Because I was like, when I saw you talking about your mom, I said, oh my God, that's real comedy.
Oh, thanks.
You know what I mean? Because like you just said, in a nutshell, you have to be vulnerable. You have to go through those dark times. But the brilliant ones are the ones willing to do that. The panhandlers and the ones that are paneling for the laughs, they don't want to do that. Because that kind of pain, when you put it out there, until it reverses itself through osmosis and practice, it's pain that can crush you.
Oh, yeah.
It's pain that can deprive you of the one thing as a comic you want the most, laughter and acceptance.
Oh, yeah.
Saw you, and I've seen a couple of other people since I've been back. It's been about 2 or 3 years now. I said to myself, that's why I do what I do.
Oh, man. Thanks, dude.
I love comedy because, and I love all kinds of comedy. You've seen me. I give the shitty guy, the howling applause.
Yeah, man.
I'm looking at even the shitty guy who's willing to say, here, this is me. And I'm like, that kind of freedom as a Black man, as a person of color, is always denied us.
Yeah.
So when you see an artist do that shit, I'm like, and you were one of the first people that when you used to talk about your mom, I used to be like, wow, man, I'm glad I came back.
Oh, that's cool, man. I appreciate that. That's fucking awesome to hear, man. Thank you. Again, well, you're a funny motherfucker, and it totally shows. And I think the best thing for you to do, especially, I mean, I think that like this post-pandemic thing, it like comedy is now. I don't think people give a shit anymore about like the fucking offending or the PC. I don't think people are gonna care, man. They're just not gonna care. So I think the best thing for you to do is to eventually, when it starts opening up, is to like just, I guess, eat dick both figuratively and literally on stage until that thing is funny. You know what I mean? Because that thing is there's like a gold mine there, but it is going to be very uncomfortable. It's going to be literally you working through, you know.
But that's what artists
thing.
do.
But yeah,
And I was so blessed to meet artists coming back. That's why I knew I made the right decision, because I was like, man, I see people really putting in work. And I see other people that just want, you know, like they're special or this, that, or the other. And the one thing I've learned throughout the journey is the destination will be exactly what you want it to be if you put in the work.
yeah.
And as a person, and I'll tell you this, and I'll tell all your podcasters this, as a person who grew up like fighting and being on the top of the heap and, you know, being perceived as a tough guy, the hardest thing I've had to do, not fight a motherfucker, is be real.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I love people, man, who can go on a stage and either they've worked it out through osmosis and have everybody laughing at their pain, or go on the stage in its rawest stage and just go, one day, motherfucker, but I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
No victimization, no reluctance and fear. I'm okay with it. And I've seen that. That's why I love the fourth wall. That's why Joey Coco Diaz, who I started with, and watched his pain turn around. Because when he used to do the cocaine and sniffing out the ass and all that other stuff, people were not very happy about that shit. Another person is Yoshi. I can't pronounce Yoshi's last name, but Yoshi.
Obayashi?
Yoshi used to talk about molesting kids and this stuff. I was in places when they had to escort him out when we had to jam. You know what I mean? So like to see it go through its phase of uncomfortableness and then be regurgitated and cooked and baked, and now people can understand that all you're saying is, hey, I'm being me in a world that doesn't want you to be you. That's what art is.
Yeah, man.
You know? That's what art is.
Yeah.
But we bastardize comedy, we bastardize music, we bastardize acting, but it's still a few people leading the resistance and saying, you know what, there's some artists out here. And I say, go.
Well, that's kind of, you know, I mean, we're in the middle of a place where all art is commercialized, you know what I'm saying? It's like, so that's a big part of it. I think it's rare to find people who understand the craft or appreciate or have the soul of artistry or even understand what that is or get or have a value of that, especially when there's so much money attached to everything, you know? But that's the thing, man. I feel like even just seeing you, I literally thought you were just starting out whenever I first saw you, but that you were just like really funny. You know, you're just like a really funny dude who just was like, figured I'll just start doing open mics or something, because that was the vibe you were kind of giving off. And yeah, I always felt like, this guy's fucking funny, man. Like, he seems just to be naturally funny coming up. And I can feel that you are working, you know what I mean? Like working towards something. Like you're working. Like it feels, you know, that's
I'm
what
among my peers at the fourth wall. And I'm learning. Man, I learned so much. Because I'll tell you this too. Like alcohol has a way of like loosening you up as a comedian. Weed has a way of loosening you up as a comedian. But one of the maddening things is, how do I go from when I'm high and I'm drunk and smashing it to being that relaxed when I'm sober, when I'm not high? And when you do that, oh man, and the way I've learned how to do that is to accept myself. And the way I've learned to accept myself is watching my peers in the fourth wall. That 10 o'clock mic, that 9 o'clock mic, man, I'm telling you, the people that run through there, I don't give a shit if women go, oh, it's not gonna be nothing but dudes. Because that one woman that comes in, I go, that motherfucker right there. is the one that's gonna make it. Because she's like, fuck all of y'all.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're black, it doesn't matter if you're
Yeah.
white. I'm making my contribution to the world, i.e. to the comedy world.
Uh-huh.
You know, leave me.
Hell yeah. All right, man. Trenton, thank you so much. Let's wrap it up here. Thank you so much, dude. Fucking, is there any like your social media accounts you want to throw out there, or anything, website, anything?
Let's see. You can look at all my accounts under the real T.S. Jones. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. Right now, all I'm doing is posting stuff and, you know, like keeping my comedy, my sense of humor, you know, like in check. I'm not doing a lot of virtual mics because I can do that in my mirror. But I do have a segment that I do. It's called Funny Questions, Funnier Answers. And it's a pop-up mic. And basically all I do is I take questions that I've put on the internet and people who have answered those questions. And usually it's a funny question, but I guarantee you the answers are 100 times funnier. And
Awesome.
that's shit that cracks me up.
And you said that's
So
on
I'll
the
be
real TS.
T.S. Jones.
The real
Or
T.S.
you can
Jones.
look up Trenton, Stuart Jones, and you'll see the only bald-headed black guy named Trenton.
That's very descriptive. Yeah, I'd say that would probably work. All right, man. Well, I can't wait to see you out there. I can't wait to see, you know, after all this shit opens up, I can't wait to see you out there, man.
Hey, it's gonna happen again.
Yeah, it's happening.
In about 2 months or so, we'll be back on the mics.
Yeah, it'll be soon.
And it's a well-deserved break because everybody's had time to reflect.
Yeah. And
So
yeah.
we see each other, brother.
All right, man. Take care.
Much respect.
All right, man.